Hey there guys, I'm SonicGhost and welcome back to some more Mario Kart 64. Last time we made our way through our second cup in the Mario Grand Prix, the Flower Cup. And we got ourselves first place in that cup with our good old friend Yoshi. This time around, continuing on the trend of picking the character that made it into second place overall, we're going to be playing through our next cup as Wario. So our next cup here in Mario Kart 64 is none other than the Star Cup. 4 different unique courses, and one of them here is the home of the character we just picked. How convenient. Let's go ahead and get things started here with the Star Cup with our very first course, Wario Stadium. Nice start boost, just plowing through every single opponent there in front of me at max speed. You gotta love it, especially being a heavyweight character. That allowed me to push around every single other racer there in the very beginning, which was perfect. And getting a breakaway here in the beginning of Wario Stadium is really important because of all the different twists and turns here. So getting as far ahead as possible is going to make it a lot harder for my opponents to use things like red shells, or even just standard green shells to attack me as well. So this is really good to have this breakaway this early. But this course has a lot of jumps, twists and turns, and a lot of sharp turns in general for you to just constantly use your drift, or maybe even the brake in some points, and just jump over a lot of these ramps. This reminds me more of a bike course of some kind, which I think this would have fit perfectly at home in a game like Mario Kart Wii with the bikes. Just saying. It didn't actually reappear into a Mario Kart game until Mario Kart World, as Wario Stadium is featured in, at the time of recording this, the latest Mario Kart game on the Nintendo Switch 2. Sounds like I hit someone with my banana, that's pretty good. Here, I'm just gonna do a drift around the corner using my brakes, so I don't have to worry about hitting the wall or anything. And I'm gonna wait until I see a racer near me, and then throw the shell right behind me just to see if that hits anyone. I love the sound effects that happen when you hit the ground, of just seeing them appear like a comic book, just seeing poop every time you hit something on the ground in this game. It's just very satisfying. And just in general, seeing your drift meter too, just be V the start and then a bunch of E's. And the more color your E's have, the more you're getting on a drift boost. Having white E's mean you're getting nothing. Yellow E's, you're close to a boost, but you still don't have one yet. But if you have orange E's, then that's when you hear your character say something, which means you got yourself a drift boost. It doesn't really look like much, but it does propel you forward a little bit. So it is useful to have some kind of a boost here in general. But it doesn't necessarily mean you always have to use a boost. It's just something I always like going for, just to help break away from the pack even more. But I will say, this is one of the longest courses in Mario Kart 64 as a whole. We're only on lap 2, and yet we've been here for 2.5 minutes, and we're just about ready to cross the finish line to start lap 3. So, yeah, needless to say, Wario Stadium, one of the longer courses here in Mario Kart 64. Each lap is over a minute. Specifically, more around a minute 19 like I got there. Maybe even a minute and a half, depending on your item luck, and if you actually get, as we call in the scene, Mario Karted. And what that means is just getting hit by every item in the item pool, going from first place to say like 8th place in 3 seconds. It could easily happen to you. But we haven't really seen it happen all that much here in this playthrough because the AI in Mario Kart 64 isn't really that aggressive as you're seeing. Although, I will say, I remember them being a little more aggressive than what they are here in this unofficial PC version. So I might have to tweak some settings at a later date maybe and just see if their difficulty actually gets more aggressive. Because there is an option in the settings to make the AI a lot harder here. One cool thing to note about this game is that you can see in the projector up above, we pause the game and it also shows the pause screen up there too, which is really cool. Because essentially the projectors on a course like Wario Stadium or Luigi Raceway, they're just mirrored reflections of the game itself, so it's just rendering a second version of itself up on that projector screen, which is a lot of extra resources that they didn't really need to allocate to anything specific here, but they did it anyways for that immersion effect, and it was a really cool graphical effect back in the late 90s. honestly one of my favorite effects in an N64 game, just because of how complex something like that really is when you break it down. But that's a long race done. 4 minutes. I didn't get hit by any items, and I used the mushroom at the very end, yet that was still a 4-minute race. One of our longest yet here in Mario Kart 64. But that gave us a total of 9 points getting first place. Good start here to the Star Cup. Let's move on to our next course. Alright, our next course here in Star Cup is Sherbet Land. So another ice course similar to the one we got in the Flower Cup, but as you can see immediately by me getting a start boost only just to spin out on the second turn, yeah, that really shows right there the ice physics in this stage specifically being a much bigger problem to deal with. So the ice isn't just a visual thing here on Sherbet Land. Yeah, you can spin out at any given time if you take a turn too sharp, so the brake is going to be a lot more useful here than a lot of other courses in Mario Kart 64. So remember the B button brakes. I'm just saying, it's a very, very useful thing. A lot of players actually just kind of forget exists in Mario Kart. Because realistically, a lot of tracks you never need the brake. And I won't tell you just how many people realize how useful the brake could be once Mario Kart 8 got its 200cc update back on the Wii U. Because all the players I saw who crapped on the brake button were like, oh, the brake can be useful for these sharp turns. Like, no, the brake being useful for slowing down? Do tell. But there's a reason why players never use brake in Mario Kart. You're getting hit every 5 seconds by an item if you're in the middle of the pack. So your brake button is just the person behind you throwing a shell in your face. This is why you never really focus on the brake button in Mario Kart, because you're always getting stopped regardless, and I can understand it. But in a course like this with slippery ice, it is pretty helpful every once in a while to tap on the brake when you're making a sharp turn, just so you don't spin out, because spinning out in this game is pretty punishing. So just try to avoid it at all costs. Honestly, I'm surprised I didn't get clipped by any of those penguins coming into this cave section. Because if you hit a penguin, well, just like so, ask you shall receive, I guess. If you hit a penguin, then you do spin out, which, as I mentioned before, you never want to spin out because it's a massive time loss, and especially against the big penguins, they put you back. Then you have to gain your speed back and go forward once again, which could be devastating if someone's right behind you with a power item ready to go. But in that case, I was far enough away from the pack that didn't really matter. Nice red shell into the water as I crossed the finish line. What a move. Didn't matter, but what a move. Nope. Oh. Oh no. Oh no. I don't think the game liked me hitting ice as I crossed the finish line. Because you never want to see the words, hey, your game crashed. Great. Guess I get to race this back to back.
One long, angry line later.
Now, because I'm redoing this cup, I guess I should mention that if you fail this turn, you actually have to go back around this portion of Wario Stadium at the very end. So if you fail the jump going into the final section of this course, it's extremely punishing. Because there's nothing you can do but to just try again. Which is not ideal if you're already far behind, because you missed that jump, you're guaranteed to lose if you're already in the middle or even the back of the pack. So yeah, the ending section here in Wario Stadium can be pretty punishing.
I'm a Wario. I'm gonna win.
Alright, so at the end of Wario Stadium, I took first place, Yoshi took second, Peach took third, and Toad took fourth. Let's see if things stay the same by the time we're done with our next course here in Star Cup. Alright, here we go.
I'm a Wario.
We just got the first place victory here in Sherbet Land. Please no crash. Please no crash. Come on. We don't need to be crashing. Alright, this is a good sign. We took first place in that race, Toad took second, Yoshi took third, and DK took fourth. So a little bit of a different outcome here. I don't even know who took what placement outside of my first place. in the previous attempt because we never even got this far, but hey, we at least beat Sherberland this time and can move on to our proper third race, or in my case now, I guess my fifth race in Star Cup. Our next race here in the Star Cup is Peach's own castle with Royal Raceway. This course, just like with Mario Raceway, is also one of my favorite courses to run on. And it's not even just because of the course design, because it has a lot of twists and turns. So it is a pretty fun course to play overall, but there's another reason why I really liked playing on this course growing up as a kid, and it's probably the same reason a lot of other players on Mario Kart 64 liked revisiting this course a lot in their own free time. It's Peach's castle here at the very end of the course, because it's actually the exact same area as the ending results for your Grand Prix when you get yourself your trophies. That castle is actually playable. So you can go into that section here on Peach's Raceway and just run around the castle grounds and just kind of explore the whole area, which we will be doing at a later point here in Mario Kart 64. I don't recommend going to Peach's Castle during an actual race because there's no purpose to it, and it will just cause problems for you in your overall placement. So maybe don't go exploring during an actual Grand Prix race. Maybe come back here in time trial and just kind of mess around in the area, but not during a Grand Prix. As of right now, though, we got a pretty good lead. I want to keep that lead as much as possible. And I'm doing something mean every single time we get to the very end of this ramp, because on this ramp, you want to be able to go right in the middle, if possible, to line up with these item boxes here around the turn. But if I place an item at the very end of the ramp, there's a good chance that one of the CPUs, as we can hear now with Wario laughing, they're going to be hitting that said item, and they'll be falling right off the ramp into the water, which will cause a respawn to happen, wasting a whole bunch of time. As if you fall out of bounds, Lakitu will have to go out and pick you up, and then drag you right back to the course. So, yeah, you never want to fall out of bounds because it's a big waste of time. And placing these traps right before the ramp itself is very, very mean, but it's very strategical. It's a really smart thing to do when you're playing against friends in Mario Kart 64. I'm just gonna throw this red shell in case there's anything in the middle, which thankfully there's not. The AI doesn't do tricks like that, so you don't really worry about things being blocked strategically. AI will drop things like the fake item box and banana peels all over the course, but they just seem to be in very random places, like just sometimes in the middle of a turn, or maybe on the left side of a straightaway like this fake item boxes. They're never really strategically placed, they're just placed at random. But that is it for Peach's Raceway here. We got ourselves first place overall yet again, so at this point we are guaranteed to get the first place trophy overall here in the Star Cup. But we still have one more race to do, so anything can happen, as we always say here. Let's just go ahead and jump into our final course here in the Star Cup. Our final course here in Star Cup is Bowser's Castle. This track, man, this track has some mystery surrounding it. And it's all related to that thwomp in the cage. What do you do? Why do you get locked up? Do I even want to know? But speaking of the thwomps, they are probably the worst part about this track, which actually makes it pretty challenging to play, because these guys will move around either left or right as they are in this hallway, or they will stomp down on the ground, causing a lot of problems for you as the player, as you can tell. But also, this track is very twisty-turny, a lot of sharp turns here on Bowser's Castle that you have to be dealing with. And Wario isn't the easiest character to control in these sharp turns, so I'm definitely struggling here on this course playing as this character. I'm going to be utilizing the brake quite a lot here on Bowser's Castle, but every once in a while I can't get a good drift boost out, so I'm going to want to do that. And this big long hallway area is a great place to be using my drift boost. That was close to sliding out, thankfully it didn't happen. Trying to bait those thwomps to stomp down at the very end of the long hallway section in an area that won't affect me, and then I can just dodge. Okay, well, so much for that item hitting Yoshi. Just the red shell ignored him altogether. This is our first race. We're actually starting to have a bit of a challenge against the CPUs, just due to the nature here of Wario's handling. I might have to do some brake turns on that final sharp turn up Bowser's Castle, because that was kind of bad, just trying to do a drift turn. But thankfully, triple red shells there at the very end, really helpful for taking out Yoshi. Let's go ahead and get ourselves farther ahead so we don't have to worry about Yoshi catching back up, as he seems to be the bigger problem for me to worry about here, compared to the other racers. He's the closest to Wario right now. Well, let's just keep this up, keep on moving. Random banana peel in the middle of the bridge. Yeah, that's great. I don't like that. This is definitely not the best race, not my finest showing here, but again, Wario's turning isn't that great, so I'm gonna have to do some brake turns around this section, which is very, very awkward, but hey, we got it. At this point, my final item is just a green shell. It's pretty worthless. I'll just throw it behind me, because at this point, we don't really need any items as we made it to the end, securing our first place victory. That is it for the Star Cup. We got first place overall in all 4 of the races, meaning we guaranteed ourselves the gold trophy. Yoshi, then Bowser, then DK came in our next spots, although it was very convenient Bowser actually did take a high spot on his own course, but didn't really help because he had no points coming in, now he has 3. So our overall victors is Wario in first place, Yoshi in second, Toad in third, and Donkey Kong tying for third, which is gonna be interesting to see who really gets the third place here in this victory results. Let's find out. So because we have a tie for third place, the game has to figure out who exactly is third overall in this Grand Prix, and who is going to be fourth place, sitting off in the distance here in Peach's Castle. The order of the names was really important to read in that victory screen before getting to the results here, because as you can see in the background, Donkey Kong is sitting all by himself in the fourth place location, and Toad is here to take the third place spot on the podium. So the game is doing a coin flip to figure out who exactly wins when they tie in a Grand Prix. And since Toad's name was on top of Donkey Kong, the game chose Toad to be third place. And we got to see that before coming here to the results screen. So if you ever tie in Mario Kart 64, it is a 50-50 chance if you actually win or lose. But we got ourselves first place in the Star Cup, so that's another gold trophy under our belts. No! And that's 3 Grand Prix down, 1 more to go. Although what is funny is that the game legitimately crashed as soon as I got my trophy. So does that count, or... I kinda hope that counts. Let's find out. So, before we see if we actually got a gold trophy or not thanks to our game crashing, we're back here on Royal Raceway so we can take a look at a little Easter egg thing I've been alluding to throughout the series here of Mario Kart 64. At the very end of Royal Raceway here, you can see Peach's Castle in the distance, but it's not just a thing you can see on the track, this is actually an area you can drive into. This is the same area you would go for the victory screen getting your trophy, but it is an area you can fully explore here in Mario Kart 64. So the castle courtyard here is from Super Mario 64, a game that came out 1 year prior to the release of Mario Kart 64, debuting in 1996 as a launch title. Now this is not the full Peach's Courtyard from Super Mario 64, there's some elements missing. For example, you can't get to the top of the castle, there's no cannon here to shoot your way up top. There's no waterfall on the left side of the castle area here, so it just kind of looks a little more barren with the hill on the side. And if you jump into the water here, you will respawn back on the track, having to complete the race, and also lag 2 will pop up a lot of the times saying you're going in reverse, when in all reality you're just exploring the area here. So this is an interesting area that you can just explore and just goof around in for a while, but there's not too much for you to do. The fact that you can get into this area in general, I found to be very, very fun growing up as a kid playing Mario Kart 64. Okay, it does count. Well, then we kind of got screwed over there for no reason, because the game, it saves as soon as you actually finish the final race. And in speedruns, you actually do reset as soon as you win the final race and go into the victory results screen. So that's a good thing it did, because my game didn't like having Wario win, apparently. He can't even be the winner in his own stadium, man. Like, come on. That's not right. But we do have one more cup left here, the Special Cup, to make our way through in the Mario Grand Prix circuit, and we'll be doing that in the next episode. Next time on Mario Kart 64, we'll finish up all of our Grand Prix here in the game by making our way through the Special Cup. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.